It's 24 degrees Celsius in Abuja this beautiful Friday morning where the sun is out in all its glory. Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of sunshine, Sunrise Daily. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, it's 26 degrees here in Lagos, and guess what? It's the 28th day in the month of August 2026. I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the program.
Well, Ayo, we are still continuing our conversation. I think we need to continue like a count up with regards to, just where we are or what day of campaign it is, because clearly a lot of things that we'll be hearing now will be centered around campaigns. But we're just entering the second week of campaigns officially. Don't forget that they have 150 days. And this conversation around subsidy removal or no subsidy removal continues to take on new dimensions. This time around, we've now heard from the Minister of Information, Alhaji Mohammed Idris, who, when visiting the governor of Taraba State yesterday, believes that that conversation is like dragging the hands of the clock back. He thinks that that conversation is done and dusted. A number of Nigerians will say, Honorable Minister, perhaps not. Perhaps the reason why that conversation is central is because the promised dividends that should accrue as a result of this removal of subsidy is what has now necessitated the reinvention or the uprooting of this topic that people thought was long dead and buried. But this is where we are right now. This was the minister yesterday, all the way in Taraba State, northeast of Nigeria, where he was speaking with the governor. And somehow it continues to, I think that the issue of subsidy continues to be a metaphor for just how the lives of Nigerians have improved since the Tinubu administration took over and finally ended the two major subsidies, the subsidy on petrol and the subsidy on the dollar, which is also very important given that we are an import-dependent country. But Ayo, I do not know, do you think that this conversation will be going away anytime soon, or do you think it will escort us through the 150 days earmarked for this campaign?
I think the challenge here, Maupe, is that of balance. I have said it, for the past 2 weeks, that one of the major issues that is going to that's going to be central to arguments for or against one candidate or the other in this election will be the cost of living. Hitherto, in previous elections, I think from as far back as maybe 2010, 2011, the issues had been around security, particularly because of the unending spree of kidnapping, of mass abductions, and all of those things. This time around, it would seem like the central issue, the core issue here now that we're dealing with, is that of cost of living, and it is not abating as quickly as one would expect. The challenge is that of balance. Oh, definitely. The macroeconomic figures are looking up. And from going by what the Minister of Finance said at some point, and because he's one of these believable people before he got into government, was that, look, he would give the government a 70% or thereabout, he said, in terms of the performance of the economy so far. And there is, we all know Mr. Loede isn't someone who is given to many, many words that are laudacious, so to speak. But now, that is, whether or not that is impacting on people's lives or not, that's another thing altogether. And I've also read Professor Joe Addy saying that as far as he is concerned, subsidy may be a challenge economically, but it was a cushion for the people because of the cost of living. Food inflation, this inflation, that inflation. From time to time, these things just have a way of affecting us. So if there is anything government has to do, okay, the question I want to ask Marco, for instance, is if, let's say today, the federal government reintroduces the subsidy, will fuel go back straight from 1,002 or whatever it is now to say 700 or 800 automatically? I don't think that will even happen in a year. I don't think fuel will go down, well, this is me. Whether or not, the fuel subsidy is removed or not, I don't even think that is the issue, but it would definitely be a matter for many people to consider during this election. The question now is, for us as a people, the balance. One, macroeconomic issues are looking up, amazing. How about the microeconomic issues? Okay, so where is all the money going? Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar asked that as well. Where is the subsidy savings going? Maybe with a little more opening on that one, maybe some clarity will come to people. Yes, we know that the finance minister has spoken to where the subsidy savings are going, but whether or not that gets done well with the former vice president or not, or even Nigerians generally, okay, that, in my opinion, is another matter altogether.
Well, the government of the day is certainly feeling the heat because we know that yesterday the president had a meeting with governors of the APC. And from what we see this morning, they have now set October the 1st as a new date where they are hoping to deliver cheaper transportation services. So we'll wait to see just what that will be about, whether they will be able to deliver. Some people will still say, hey, 3 months to elections is when you're remembering to do this. This is something that ought to have been a priority for you way before now. But as Laulu has also highlighted, he said, look, this is the luxury of pundits. The people really do not care. What they want is cheaper prices, and it doesn't care when you deliver it. But we'll wait to see. If you missed that conversation or what exactly the Minister for Information said, here is what he said and how he said it.
The removal of subsidy has created enough fiscal headroom for us at the federal government and for those of you at the subnational to embark on very many developmental strides that is repositioning some of these states and making them a lot more viable. So it beats our imagination, Your Excellency, when we hear this debate that some people are contemplating going back, rewinding the hands of clock, going back to where we were. We wonder how possible even that is. The removal of subsidy has created that fiscal headroom for us to embark on infrastructure projects. Every part of this country, there is construction going on. I wonder how that will have been possible if these resources were not there. Your Excellency, look at our students. To date, we have over 1 million, over 1.2 million actually, of our young men and women who are able to go to school simply on account of a flagship project of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the NELFund project. Now, through that, the federal government is able to pay the tuition of these young men and women, and not only that, to also make sure that they are retained in school by the payment of stipends in upkeep for them to remain in that school.
Now, while the generality of Nigerians might be wondering how they have fared in the last 4 years under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, lawyers who have gathered in Port Harcourt under the Nigerian Bar Association are also asking themselves, what has this year's conference delivered? And how has organization gone? We do know that the Nigerian Bar Association did hold its annual conference in Port Harcourt this year from the 21st, and it's supposed to be rounding off today. But quite a number of lawyers have been quite vocal about how, what they feel about the conference so far. We're going to be speaking with one of them this morning because we've seen some of the outputs, it would seem, from the event. We've seen it over and over, well, not over it, but bits and bits here and there. From the conference, they've had some sort of debate, some sort of feedback. We're going to be listening to one of the feedback this morning because it would seem that so far the review has not been as positive as it ought to be. Is this just a matter of perspective, or is this a matter of a drop in standards? Big questions, really. Well, this morning we're joined by a senior advocate of Nigeria. He's Mr. Monday Obani. He's a legal practitioner and also a policy analyst. He has written his own take. He says it's an interim report on the 2026 MBA Annual General Conference in Port Harcourt. And his review, I wouldn't say scathing, but hasn't been very complimentary. It's good to see you with us this morning. We wish you were with us in person, but we can still have you virtually. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunrise Daily this morning. You published this review yesterday. What has the response to your review been like from amongst your fellow lawyers?
Thank you very much. Good morning. Ayo, good morning from Lagos studio. Yes, the reaction, Maokwe, from the lawyers, and that is a very important constituency, is that they virtually agreed with what I say. You know, it's something that many people were not bold enough to speak, but I had to do this. It is not clearly a criticism of Afam Osigwe's governance or leadership. It's just that the observation that I made is that the standard of our conference this year, fell below standard. And that is the truth. I've been to many conferences. I've been over 20-something conferences since I became a lawyer. I was once the chairman of a branch, Ikeja branch of the Nigerian Bar Association. I was once the vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association, the former chairman of SPIDEL, section of Public Interest and Development Law, and I'm a very active stakeholder in the legal profession. I've been to many conferences, both international and local. Now, this year's conference really, really fell below standard in terms of logistic and organizational, planning. We were put into a lot of discomfort. There is no place for you even to go and urinate easily and all that. That was not taken into cognizance. And the arena where the places where we had our program wasn't conducive. The air conditioners weren't functioning properly, and the environment was very, very hot. And so you saw many lawyers more outside taking pictures and socializing rather than being inside the hall in order to listen to some of the lectures that that were going on. So it wasn't really conducive. When it came to the issue of even lunch, people were carrying plates, begging for meat and all that. So it is logistical problem. I think this is the highest ever in the history of MBA. Over 24,000 lawyers registered for this conference. So you will expect all those organizational hiccups and all that. But my problem is that it may not be 100%, but there must have been some level of standard, expected in terms of planning. The number of people that are coming for this conference, what adequate arrangement did you make? Let's assume that you made some adequate arrangement and maybe it fell short. But this one is that it's like there was no proper arrangement made for the number of persons that were coming. And you took money from them and you made them now to pass through rigorous and strenuous process in a conference that's supposed to be seamless and entertaining and very exciting. We look forward every year for this kind of for annual conference. But this year, honestly, has been a bit of a strain, strenuous exercise, being under the rain. Yesterday, if you see the pool of water, I was lifted like a small boy into my car. I had to be lifted by this safety young man, and I had to pay for it. Others were exploited by the Okada people trying to lift them because there was this pool of water, flood that actually made it very possible for people to have access to the venue and all that. So it has been not too good. And we are saying this not to run down any person, but for future planning, for those who are taking over, that we don't allow such things to happen. We've been to international conferences. There's going to be an IP International Bar Conference coming up in Denmark in October. If you see the level of planning, if you see the level of standards, if you go for these conferences, we should be able to look at those things, and then come back and replicate them here, and begin to improve our standard. Not every year we keep on going down, and it's not making me happy. for a profession that actually is there, that when they cough, the entire nation should actually be, be a bit worried, because they represent the voice of the voiceless. They represent standard. They represent, the best of the best. If you ask me, the legal profession, it still remains the best. So when it comes to issue of planning, when it comes to issue of electoral process, when it comes to general all issues, we should be seen to be above the board. But I'm not seeing that over the years, so it's making me not to feel very happy as a legal practitioner, and I have a right to voice it out. And a lot of lawyers agree that we should improve our standard, from now onwards, and that is the truth.
And in fairness to you, I mean, you started by praising what the Enugu conference was last year. You said that clearly might have, prompted many lawyers to register for this year's event. 24,000 now, you say, at least the number of people who showed interest and who registered to come for this year's event. Well, it's very curious how you start this. I mean, where your disappointment starts from. You say your greatest, and these are your words, your greatest disappointment begins with the quality of the materials, especially the conference bag and the general organization of the conference. And I said, of all the things to start with, what we've seen so far have been controversies around the quality and suitability of some of the guests. We've also seen, of course, some of the things you've raised around welfare. I think very little has been said about the quality of the conference materials, which you highlight and you say is your greatest disappointment. Is there a reason for starting from there?
Yes. If you there have been these presidents, that have actually ran over MBA, and they gave us very quality bags, and up to now I'm still using those bags. When this other president was there, I think Mikhail's bag, the first conference that he held, quality bag, I'm still using it. Oluwapata also, the bag was something else, and we're still using those bags. I want a situation where after a conference, I should be able to use the materials that I've got from the conference. I mean, you see it with ICANN. If you go to any ICANN conference, over the year, I mean, my brother was once the president 2 years ago and all that, and then they gave me quality bag, quality bag, and I'm still using those bags, to travel. So I expect that after, paying so much, as a senior advocate, I think I paid over 200 or 300,000 naira for the conference. I mean, it's a bag that is a bit qualitative. It may not be from the amount of money we're contributing. You should be able to get sponsors to do this, and that is what other professions do. Get sponsors. I mean, meet a sponsor, an investor. Look, I want you to be the one to do the bag. Take out maybe 800,000 million naira in order to do quality bag. For lawyers, and they will never forget. Even ICANN, they give umbrella. Sometimes they even give a towel and all that things they give in addition. But in our own case, if you see the bag, it looks like that of a market woman. Somebody says it's a funeral souvenir. It wasn't last year and this year's bag. Very unimpressive. Having seen what had been done by previous president, in terms of quality bag, for our conference. So this year and last year's, it's nothing to write home about. Last year I didn't even pick it. I didn't bother to pick it, but this year's again, I thought that would be an improvement. Starting from the back, I was not impressed.
Well, you did say in your your estimation, you have tried to, well, I say shield the NBA president, to say that this is not exactly a will I say summary, or or should not take away from his leadership of the NBA.
Yes,
and well, we'll come to that. But let me take you up on some of the things which you say might not have been their fault. Take, for instance, this major structural problem which you identify. You say one of the major structural problem confronting the NBA annual general conferences is the absence of adequate convention centers across the country. A conference that attracts tens of thousands of lawyers cannot continue to depend on facilities that were never designed to accommodate gatherings of this magnitude. So, in your own estimation, do you think that this was really the fault of the organization, of the organizers? especially if this event is supposed to go around the country and have a national feel, a national appeal.
Yes,
Can you really hang this on them?
yes. Yeah, very, very, very intelligent question. If it has become known to us that the number of lawyers now for our annual conferences are increasing, and then we do not have the facility for such gathering in any particular state, then we should avoid that state. We don't. It's not compulsory that we must be, to every state. If we don't have that facility, we have discovered that Abuja can conveniently host our annual conference without any issue. The same with Lagos, and conveniently hosted us. It's superb, and I wrote about it. Now, if we have discovered now that if we cannot go to every other state, all the states in the federation due to issue of logistics, then we don't need to go there. I mean, take for instance the one we had. The greatest platform, took only 2,000. I mean, imagine you are bringing 24,000 lawyers to a conference, and the biggest marquee, a platform you created, for the lawyers is 22,000 only. So you begin now to, do all other smaller, platform for the conference, and that's why you saw many more lawyers being outside than being inside of the hall. So I'm saying, let's now, for now, begin to concentrate in those states that can conveniently host our annual conferences. No, it's not compulsory that we must be to every state. Now, secondly, it is also a notice we are giving to governors and government that we can, begin to erect international convention centers. We've been to other countries in the world, and we see international convention that can take 30,000 at a go, 40,000, 25,000. We can do it. We have the resources. And if others are not doing it, maybe NBA will begin to look into investing in that. After they said they are putting into account 6 billion. That was the account that was given to us, that they have fixed 6 billion from this present government. That's why I said that it is not clearly a rundown of the present government, because there are areas where Afamo West government has actually done well, especially in terms of holding government accountable, being a voice for the voiceless and all that. And some other thing that was, that they did, that we can really commend them. And that's why I've always been there in order to say, look, go ahead, we are certainly behind you, but there are areas where he has also not fared better, which I think even the subsequent government should be able to improve upon. So one of them is this issue of conference planning, and another is issue of electoral process. We have been having issue with our electoral process. If we can sit down and criticize what goes on at national level, then we must be above board in terms of the way we organize our electoral process, and in terms of how we organize our conferences. It's very important. That is my take. So whatever it is, if other states cannot host us conveniently without subjecting lawyers to strenuous, a conference, that you have come and, listen to great minds and interrogate the professional, interrogate the nation itself generally, then let's put them where we can conveniently be hosted. I mean, Abuja can conveniently do that. Lagos can, and maybe Enugu now has joined this, and maybe towards even going to Akwa Ibom and other states, and then let governors be put on notice and be, let them begin to build convention centers. I mean, I see no reason why we cannot bring out good money and build convention centers that can accommodate 25, 30,000 of persons at a go. That is the kind of thing we should begin to see and ask our governors to do, our government to do, even at the national level. That is my take. Or MPA can conveniently also begin to plan towards that. MPA can say, we're not finishing it now. We can make it a project of maybe 5 years or 6 years. Let's build a convention center where we can be holding our annual conferences. That's how we think. We must begin to, if I would say, beyond limit. The topic is beyond limit. We should go beyond traditional boundaries and begin to innovate and do things that are extraordinary. That's the way nations think. That's the way, our profession should be thinking. And I love the topic, beyond limit. We should be thinking beyond limit. Maybe this beyond limit can now push us into having a convention center, begin to build and begin to probably lay foundation for it and ask sponsors. And people can. Some people like Dangote and Illuminus of this world can help, MBA build a convention center.
Well, there'll be questions on the sustainability of such a center. I mean, if it's not hosting the MBA conference, what will it be doing all year round? But I know Ayo also has questions for you. Over now to you, Ayo.
Well, thank you, Malkwe. And that's actually a valid position to hold, particularly because we have lawyers in every state in in the country. So taking it around, as the NBA has decided to do, makes some good sense. But then you've spoken to it, but I'd like you to be a little more forthright on it. The fact that it goes to one state government, one state or the other. From time to time, we've heard that state governments usually support or sponsor or whatever one of them blew up some years ago or so. Could that also have been a reason for some of the lackluster, if you may, contributions that come from other sources outside of the NBA? Could that be a reason?
What reason? Well, I didn't get the question. But
Sometimes state governments make contributions. Was this the
yes,
venue and all those other things? Were they sometimes venues contributed by the state government? Could that be a reason why some of these things
yes,
don't come as up to par as expected? Or is it all on the NBA as far as you're
yes.
concerned?
Yes, you are very right. Most of the conferences we have held in the past, the state government come in terms of helping in funding. I remember the one we held in Port Harcourt when Governor Wike was the governor. He was very forthcoming in terms of helping MB. I think I had Mr. Alege then was the president. I also remember the time we held in Lagos when Ambode was a governor. Ambode practically believed so much in the project, believing that so much money will come into the state, economically. He knew, a man with a clear understanding and knew the importance of hosting an annual conference of a large gathering of lawyers, the largest in Africa. And the kind of money that we even come into, that had just probably come into Port Harcourt during this conference is in the billions. I mean, all the hotels were all taken over. All those that sell volley, granite, all of them, they increased their prices and they were all making them all smiling to the banks. So it's a whole lot, that comes into any state that actually goes in. So some state government practically and intentionally, bring in money, sponsor, make accommodation affordable, and also go extra mile. The one of Enugu, the governor was all over the place. Security was tight. Everything was intact. You saw the presence of government, in the planning and organizational thing that happened in Enugu. That's the kind of thing we want every other state to be involved in. If we are coming to your state, there must be that practical demonstration that you're happy that such gathering is coming into your state and you are going to benefit from it. You must go extra mile in order to invest and make sure that extra measure you take will provide comfort for lawyers. I didn't see it in I'm sorry to say this, I didn't see it in Port Harcourt. There was a time yesterday I was in a hold up for almost 4 hours. 2 hours in a particular place because of the large number of persons and all that. So we must begin to, the conference planning and logistics, knowing fully well what will come into the economy of that particular state. Any governor that has that understanding will not in any way even be pleaded in order to go extra mile, because it's an investment you are doing, and your state will be better off after the entire conference because billions come into the economy. That is what I have discovered over time and all that. So I don't know why this year's own, I don't know whether the governor, was really this and all that, but he came there, he was there, made beautiful speeches, but another. But I didn't see much of the presence of governance, on the ground, to show that maybe we are welcome. Maybe they were ready for us last year, and we were not able to go last year. And this year, the level of preparedness and what I've seen on ground wasn't all that
Well,
correct.
perhaps,
But not us.
by and large, maybe, as you have said, maybe we
I'm
will
saying
expect,
that yes.
yeah, maybe we'll expect that, the NBA will conduct some kind of introspection, some research, feedback, and all, so that, a standard is created that will not be compromised whatsoever. Something you said in your statement, Dr. Bani, is that this is an intellectual gathering and it's supposed to produce some stuff. So over the years, the NBA conference has always attracted eyeballs and eardrums. And like you, just as you did, Mr. Falana also raised issues about one guest or the other that that was invited to the program. Mark even made that a thing yesterday when we had a conversation with Mr. Falana. Now, going forward, what should people be expecting? Because when we hear NBA conference, it's just a gathering of lawyers as many people are concerned. But as far as many people are concerned, but what should Nigerians expect from an MBA conference so that when lawyers such as yourself, senior advocates are complaining, people can really empathize? In terms of intellectual contribution to society, what should Nigerians be expecting?
Yes. Yeah, it's a gathering of lawyers, judges, policymakers, business leaders, right? Government officials, and also the young ones. So the balancing act, has to be there. I agree with you. And that's why they have a program. Part of the program over the years now, they call it Unbad. Unbad program is one that is meant for the young persons. They go and wine and dance and all that. The entertainment aspect, should be there. Leave it for the young ones and see those who are old, who are still young at heart, and all that. I don't have any issue with that. But when it comes to issue of discussion of topics and all that, then remember that you have all these people I've mentioned, in that hall in order to listen to guest speakers, those who are coming to really, really interrogate ability of those people you are bringing must be intentional. It must be intentional about it. And it must be considered about those other people also that want to listen to something that they go home and say, look, we have benefited intellectually from the people we have invited. So that consciousness must be there. I'm not saying that you don't need to bring different voices. I mean, the legal profession requires different voices. We need to hear different voices from every angle, from every profession. But be conscious of the quality of your audience. And they don't bring any person that at the end, people are divided as to the importance or suitability of that particular person you have brought for that conference and all that. That is the only thing what I advise. So I don't have any problem with having mixed voices in our conference, hear from everyone, even low and the rich and the elite and all that, and the intellectuals, or even the market woman. But let it be that you are conscious of the environment where you are bringing the guests and all that, so that we don't run into problem at the end of the day. When a particular guest come and people now start quarreling, why must you have brought that particular? Why do you have to bring this person and all that? So that consciousness must be there. That is not saying that we must not bring other voices. No, we must bring voices. Let's hear voices. Let's get it from every perspective. Let's get it from every sign, every language, in order for people to really, really, use it to implement. Because beyond the issue of talking, we should go beyond the issue of talking and begin to insist on implementing these things which say we go and say every year. Are you following me, sir? Because every year we keep on talking and issuing communique and suggestions should be implemented by those who are policymakers. And that is the way we can be able to move our country forward. That is what happens in other international fora. IBA, African Bar. I'm a council member of African Bar Association, and I see presidents of countries come to our conferences and they listen to us and they say we are going home with all the things you guys have said in your conference and all that. I want it to be seen also in Nigeria. When we're having our conferences, get the policymakers to be part of the process part of the process in order to hear what we are trying to interrogate, what we are trying to say, what we are trying to make our country look like. We want our country to look like other countries. That's the point. And we must move beyond the traditional boundary by getting them to be involved and then implementing whatever we have made a suggestion in our conferences. That is the kind of conference that actually, yes.
It does appear that you're softening this particular criticism now, because I'm reading your words here. And you say lawyers are very peculiar in every respect. I mean, this is you now saying, well, you can invite market women, we can hear from all manner of professions, etc. But they should be conscious of where they're bringing them to. You say lawyers are peculiar in every respect. And the MBA Annual General Conference is a serious, professional, and intellectual gathering. It cannot and should not be converted into a circus show. No amount of argument by the protagonist of certain guests can change this fundamental reality. The MBA must preserve the intellectual dignity and professional character of its annual gathering. Yes. So this, for me, was a very, very fundamental part of your criticism of this year's conference, which clearly has not exactly, gone down well. A lot of lawyers have agreed with you. It's unclear. I mean, there's been no vote done now, but those who have disagreed very vocally, and those who are the protagonists for the show, for the appearance of these guests, have also made a very strong case. Yesterday, when we were speaking with Mr. Falano, I cited Professor Chidi Odinkalu, who says that, look, this is a form of feedback, and that the NBA should not be afraid of feedback. That's how he sees it. And I think we saw a post from the NBA president who said something to the effect that, I mean, he can deny or verify that, because you know how social media works. But he said that the fact that people do not like certain people doesn't mean that they cannot hear from them, or that they shouldn't listen to them. So that's some sort of pushback. Do you think that this has the ability to divide the NBA? Because some people will say that so far so good. It does appear that this pushback or this back and forth we've seen on the appearance of certain guests might run deeper than what we're seeing on the surface. Is this something you agree with?
The point is that whoever you are bringing at every point in time, you must do a fact check. You must look at the antecedent. You must look at the character. You assess the person, whether engagement in social media, physical and all that, the kind of character you are bringing. There was a particular case they brought in a conference in a year that climbed a pole. I don't know, even half naked and all that. That cannot represent the gathering of lawyers. No matter how you want to justify that, I would not like to invite any person that probably wear, earring on his nose and come to our program and then come to address lawyers, because we are looking at also our guests as role models. There are lawyers who are coming up, we want them to look at certain persons, we bring in our program and say, this is a role model. I want to be like this person.
Just to say that women wear earrings.
No, and I would like, you can wear your earring outside, but when you are coming for ABA program, I will advise, if you cannot, keep to our dress mode and all that, then I wouldn't like to bring you in, because people look at you there as our role model. We have brought you there to exhibit you, to the entire profession and to the world. I know that there are people, people on social media, they can attack, they love attack, even when you express your opinion, very honestly. I'm saying, if I'm bringing somebody to MBA program, it's a different thing. I'm not doing a social thing, to come and speak on a platform I'm giving you as an MBA guest speaker. Then you're addressing in very, very important for me. The language also you would deploy also very important to me. The things you will say very important. You must be measured and you must be very factual. These are things I want to go out of the lecture hall feeling that I have benefited, from this person. Yes. I don't want to go, with a
I take that from you, Mr. Obani, but I'm asking, do you think that it's a reflection of deeper divisions running within the NBA? This criticism.
The point is that people have a right to hear their view, right? If you bring, it's not deeper. People you bring. Look at the people you are bringing. Make sure that it will not create division. It is not a measure of deeper, division. I'm saying that people will take individual position on a matter at any point in time. I mean, last year, it was issue of junior lawyers taking the center stage. You can't do that in the legal profession where you have old lawyers and then the young lawyers. Yes, you have to give them an opportunity. But let it not be that you now put them ahead of senior lawyers. That is actually what happened last year in Enugu. That was only the minors, of that particular conference. This year it's issue of personalities that have been done. So you be careful. Those who are in the planning committee, be a bit more conscious. Look at your audience, those that you are bringing these guests for and all that. How would they react? What will be their feeling? What has been the antecedent of this person and all that? So do all your fact check, do all your background check before bringing any guests. Don't bring any guests that will create a lot of controversy. I don't have any problem with any person. I don't have any problem with any person. I'm saying it here. We let's have different voices, but also do a fact check. Don't bring a particular guest that can actually divide the constituency. That is my take. That is not to say that we're against any person coming for MBA, whether lawyer or non-lawyer. But let it be that the person will contribute something that, when I'm leaving the conference, I say I've benefited, immensely from this particular guest speaker.
Mr. Obani, we have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on Sunrise Early with the review of the NBA Annual General Conference, which will be rounding off today in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Thank you once more. Mr. Monday Obani is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Of course, you have to be a legal practitioner for you to be a senior advocate. He's also a policy analyst. Thank you once more for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Well, the NBA is not the only organization under the spotlight. The Nigerian Football Federation is also receiving its own share of the spotlight. We understand its leadership has now resigned as the EFCC and the ICPC is now probing 12 billion naira, which has been given it by the federal government. In just a moment, please stay with us.
I just want to tell you, I decided to resign my position as the president of NFF, and then I advised my board members. I informed them, and I advised them, anybody that will follow me should also resign.
Ibrahim Guzo's exit did not come as a surprise to keen followers of Nigerian football, particularly after the Super Falcons missed the FIFA Women's World Cup for the first time since the year 1991. The Super Eagles' failure to qualify for this year's FIFA World Cup further piled pressure on his administration, eventually forcing him to throw in the towel. On the flip side, the Federation under Guzo recorded some successes, particularly in reforming the domestic leagues, attracting increased corporate sponsorship and investment into Nigerian football. Football stakeholders have welcomed the development, while calling for a broader overhaul of the NFF.
That place needs to be liberated. That's why I'm calling up FIFA, CAF, the NSC, and the NFF. They have to get it right. Because what they tell people is that government is interfering. How now? Tell me. Government is not interfering. You are the one that is interfering, that sees government as an interference. They make the laws and oversight them. You don't recognize them. So please, if you're not going to do 15 election, whether you call it normalization, I said amend the status and accommodate everybody.
We need to go back to the drawing board, take cue from other countries, other federations on what they are doing. And we can do that because we are not short of talent. We have the talent. We just have to ensure that our governance is more transparent. Things are done properly to favor the game and to favor the talents that we have.
What I believe is that they do not even let those who care about sports in Nigeria to get to that position. And I feel that's the biggest problem we have. If those who care about sports can actually get into positions where they can show that love, I think it will change. So we just have people who are interested in their pockets.
Ibrahim Guzo's resignation is also expected to trigger a possible postponement of the NFF elections, currently slated for September the 27th in Lafia, Nasarawa State. His tenure leaves behind a legacy that underscores both the potential and the immense volatility of managing Nigerian football.
Well, Ida Petersai joins us now. He is a football analyst, former Super Eagles goalkeeper. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning. I'm sure you must have been watching with keen interest since the letter of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu hit the NFF. Well, it would appear that they're not even waiting for the reforms or for the probe. The chairman has now resigned. What were your immediate thoughts?
Excitement. Absolute excitement. It's overdue. And again, thanks to the president and the NSC chairman. We have longed for change for a very long time. And to see the president take this stand, it's just beautiful. There's joy everywhere, you know. When a man leaves a position like this, if he's done well, people should be complaining and regretting why he's leaving. We've had four years of disaster. And I wouldn't say because I tried to contest. One of the reasons I wanted to come in was because we saw those loopholes. I wanted to bring change. Thank goodness. We really do hope that change will come this time.
Well, in fairness, I mean, you have said it's been 4 years of disaster. But, you know, in compiling our report, journalists have a duty to be balanced. And some of the highlights we were able to pin down in terms of what he's done, because as they always say, nobody is completely bad or nobody is completely disastrous, that he's been able to reform the domestic league, he's been able to uphold a stable football timetable, and he's been able to bring some sponsorship, some significant sponsorship from the private sector into football. What exactly would you say he did not do well? What exactly made his tenure particularly disastrous for you?
When we talk about you are mistaking the NFF and the league. The league has a different leadership where Legbele runs, and for me, I think he should come as an interim NFF president because singularly he's brought change to the league. So it's a different thing. There's the league and there's the NFF. The NFF handles the international games, national sites, and the NFL, or what you call it, handles the local league. There, they've gotten sponsorship. There, they've aligned the league with the European standard. There's a lot of improvement in our league, and as even the referee has improved. What we're saying is the same thing needs to be reciprocated in the NFF. We look at international matches. We've done woefully. It's been woeful. Our senior national team has not been to the World Cup for 8 years. Our women just got knocked out. It was almost our birthright with the female football. We went to South Africa and first played Nigerian girls. We beat them 8-0. 8-0. That's how good we were at the time. Things were good with our football. It's gone very bad. That, I was watching a program yesterday for Senegalese, and the Senegalese says, we no longer fear Nigeria. They are not the same. That cannot be said of this great country. Our national teams have done badly. You have to be rated by your national team. That's what it is. What are you producing? Look at Cameroon. Cameroon brought Eto'o as the president of the Cameroon Cameroon FA. Previous year, they were not at the World Cup. This time, they qualified for the World Cup. They won the women's AFCON. It just goes to show progress. We've not moved forward in the last 4 years. And I think that's the challenge. Our national teams have not done well. Under 20, under 23, the women, the Super Eagles. That's why you're there. You're there to make sure that things are done properly. Do you know that we, in prosecuting our World Cup, we used three coaches for a World Cup qualifier. So the team was in disarray, no leadership at all whatsoever.
I do know that pardon my confusion there with the NFL and the NFF, but I do know that my colleague Ayo has questions for you. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Markwe. Even add to that another lexicon, the NFA. Earlier this morning, CPC side, Segun Odegbami was saying that as far as he's concerned, the NFF is an illegal nomenclature to the law, that the one that is there is the NFA, and consequently and that has had a significant impact on the governance structure of footballing in Nigeria. What are your thoughts on that, and how impactful is that for you in administration of football in Nigeria?
There are technicalities when it concerns the NFF, NFA. One they say it's an illegal entity, one says it's legal. It was registered as NFA or registered as NFF. For me, these are just technicalities. What we're talking about is leadership. Now, my people have a proverb: take goat, tie rope; take rope, tie goat. Not the same. So you just need somebody that is honest. It has to start with integrity. Someone with integrity to say, why am I here? What is my responsibility here?
Perhaps the issue there, my apologies for butting in, Mr. Professor. Perhaps the issue here is, as you said, it is a function of leadership. But then there's also those who believe that you can't build something on nothing. If it doesn't exist, to use Mr. Wike's words, if it didn't dare, it didn't dare. If there is nothing there, then there is nothing to be built on it. So maybe that is why that is essential, and you may want to speak to that subsequently. But there is another issue, and that's the fact that we need to even understand, give us an understanding. Why does Nigeria fail to qualify for a tournament that we have 4 years to plan for? It still beats the imagination of any Nigerians as far as I'm concerned. We have 4 years to qualify for the World Cup. And then immediately after the one World Cup, we seem to go to sleep until there is an emergency somewhere. What, in your opinion, informs that? You should be able to tell us, okay, these are the things, these are the reasons that we have this delay. Is it a function of bureaucracy? What exactly is the problem here?
Again, I come down to leadership. I said earlier, let's break it down. You just said 4 years. Now, what we have done with our football is that we have handed over our football to foreign-based players. I said this and I was criticized a little bit earlier. When I wanted to contest, I said the first criteria will be that anyone that plays for the national team must know how to sing the national anthem, whether old or new. There's something about being a Nigerian. And you will see, everywhere in the world, when you see foreign-based players coming, their mentality is different. Mentality is different. They are like professionals that have been hired to play. And most of these players that come to play for us come because maybe they've just been rejected by the country which they were born in or which they've lived. Now, what do? You need to focus. I've always said it. You must come back to the grassroots. We need to pay a lot of attention to our locally based players and groom them to that level. There's a different passion. Being born in Nigeria, being born outside Nigeria. I don't have anything against the foreign-based players. But if our foundation be faulty, there's no way we can produce. So what are we doing? We're just rushing to Europe. Oh, we hear plays for Frankfurt. And he comes and he doesn't understand the system. He doesn't know who we are. He doesn't have a passion. That even if the national team, the country where he's coming from, is playing, he'll be singing the national anthem of that country. We need to come back to the grassroots. Develop. I'm excited with the league, with what Enegbele is doing with the league. Now, but we need to say, okay, we're producing locally. People that want to die or sacrifice for this country, and we have a solid foundation. A whole lot of them. When we all played from Nigeria before we traveled. And you need to get back there. When you see how desperate these players want to play, you build from that foundation. We don't have a youth system that produces. I just told you, our under 23 is not qualifying, under 20 is out of the championship, under 16. Why? Attention is not being paid to these players that should develop to the national level. So you see, so we're not producing. When we get to the top, we don't have production. We don't have people that will produce. Stephen Keshi changed the status quo. Yes?
How hopeful, sorry to jump in there, but how hopeful are you that the convention coming up in September can change the tide for the NFF?
It will not hold. It will not hold. It doesn't have to hold. We have to rejig our football. There's a meeting happening 10 o'clock today, I suppose. They would meet to decide the way forward. There's no leadership in Nigerian football anymore as I speak. Therefore, no one has the right to call for a meeting, except there's an acting secretary. They will have a meeting today, and they will normally have a normalization committee, a group of people that will run the football while decisions are being taken to see when the next election. Only the Congress, again I say, only the Congress can make decisions for Nigerian football. Therefore, the Congress should be meeting, as the information I got, by 10 o'clock. And they will, lay out a blueprint of the next election. It will be too early to call for an election now.
All right, Mr. Idaprit aside, we sincerely want the very best for our Nigerian football, and we want to be able to, I don't want to say go back to glory days, but because I believe the glory days are still very much ahead. But we have to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on Sunrise Daily this morning. He's a football analyst and a former Nigerian international. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Thank you for having me. Well, that's where we draw the curtains on Sunrise Daily this morning. Thank you so much for speaking, for watching. You can speak with us by sending us your feedback. I'm Maufe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Business Morning is on the hour. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend.